Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity. Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the second race of the 6th season of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series as we've made our way up the coast from Daytona, Florida, here to Manasas, Virginia, to the Manasas Speedway, getting ready to continue on the regular season, that long road towards the playoff spots in the chase for the championship. I'm Seth Cole, welcoming Dylan Poteet back to the booth. We had him up in the commentator's studio for pretty much the entirety of Daytona. Dylan, obviously there were a lot of questions going into Daytona, leaving Daytona. How would the next-gen car do? You had the different variations of experience. What type of a Daytona race would we have? But I think now drivers have been able to take everything they learned from Daytona. They've got a bit of a starting ground. Some drivers did well. They're going to look to keep that momentum going. Other drivers really struggled. A lot of them didn't even get out of the gate, caught up in those big wrecks early on. Now they're going to be using this racetrack and this race hopefully as a springboard, gain back a lot of the points that they lost.
Yeah, this was definitely it was definitely a week for sure at Daytona. Most of the drivers there probably are glad to be out of there. They didn't really get the results they wanted. Some of them didn't get to even have a chance to really feel out the car. But we did definitely have a great race. We had a great finish there. Chris Dollerton winning the race in the photo finish, and is actually starting on the pole today as well. So he's obviously in the best state of mind for the season as we are. But like I said, this is a big week for a lot of these drivers. Really, their season starts today because Daytona, like I said, is such a wild card. And a lot of them, like I said, didn't have a good finish. So they're really starting to get going today. This is where their season really starts to try to make up some ground. I know it's only after one race, but they're going to see what they really got today. When it's not really a plate race, it's more about the car and the handling and see what they can do and see how it goes for the rest of the way.
So we're only 2 races in now as soon as we take the green flag for this one, and already different drivers have different agendas in terms of wanting to find victory lane. For pretty much 41 drivers in the field, they're trying to get that checkered flag, work their way from there, but that win can be so important into locking yourself into the playoffs. But for Chris Dalton, as you mentioned, rocking the Sam Houston Bearcats colors on his number 43 here, he still wants to find victory lane a couple more times this season, rack up those bonus points for when the playoffs put together, and maybe even more importantly, get himself a couple more victories, build a nice cushion between himself and that cutoff line that you need to be above in order for those wins to even count towards a spot towards the postseason.
Absolutely, yeah. He'll just have to just maintain his position in the points. As long as he stays up in the top 30 in points and has that win, and as long as there's not more than 16 winners, and he's in that position, he should be good. But it gives the team a little bit more opportunity to try to maybe strategize for a couple of wins and do a little bit different things. Maybe some of the others are doing differently, and just try different strategies. If they're not the best car, to try to go out there and steal a win or two. Like I said, all those bonus points will definitely come into play once it gets around to the playoffs. And you never know, like I said, 1 or 2 points, or even the amount of points for a win bonus point wise could make the difference and make it maybe all the way to the championship four, honestly. So Chris has nothing to lose here, but for everybody else, they're still looking for their first win of the season to get locked in to join him in the bracket as the playoffs loom pretty far away, but it's still early. We'll see what happens.
Ford absolutely dominated Daytona last week, winning the pole, winning the duels, of course, winning the 500. You've got 4 of them starting up here inside of the top 5, but the rest of the top 8's comprised of Chevrolets. Is this the place where the other manufacturers, the Chevrolets and the Toyotas, of course, the Mazda of Nick Gunther, have to kind of make a statement of, hey, you're not going to keep a stranglehold on these checkered flags, blue ovals?
Yeah, that is true. I don't think we're going to see what we saw at Daytona last week. It's not really a plate track here, so I think we're going to see a lot of different players come up there and really battle for the win today. I think there's still definitely be some Fords up there in the mix, but I think we'll see a good mix of like different manufacturers going for it today. So it should be a good one, I think. It's going to be an interesting track. in a race. It's a pretty wide track, kind of similar to Michigan. So there's definitely going to be a lot of room and places to make passes and stuff and try to set up where everybody is. So I'm pretty excited to see what to expect. I don't know if it's going to be as crazy as Daytona last week, which for most of these drivers would be pretty excited about that, just to keep the car in one piece and have a chance here. So we'll have to see what happens. It should be an interesting one.
Well, 80 laps await these drivers here today. We're going to go down trackside, get those most famous words in motorsports, and get these cars rolling off of pit road at Manasas.
Drivers, start your engines!
Toyota pace car going to lead them off pit road. You see the starting lineup on the right side of your screen. You brought up the fact of this track having characteristics similar to Michigan. Of course, Michigan's where the championship will be decided at the end of the season. Michigan has, I believe it's 18 degrees of banking in the corners here. Manasas has 24 degrees. And also the fact, you said this doesn't race like a super speedway, but that's not going to stop these guys from going double wide, three, maybe even four wide. Who knows?
Yeah, it could even get further than that. We may even see 5 wide, honestly. It's wide enough to do so. These guys are going to be carrying speeds probably close to 200 miles an hour, and I don't think they're going to be having to let up too much. It just depends on how these tires are and everything, and just have to keep an eye on strategy. But nonetheless, this should be an interesting one for sure. It's going to see some comers and goers, I believe, in this race. But like I said, everybody outside of Chris Dollarton, there's a lot on the line. Like I said, this is where I think the real season starts. Daytona, it's the biggest race this season. Everybody wants to win it. Everybody goes for broke there to try to win it. Dollarton was the one that got to win and take the trophy. But now, really, I think the season starts today. Because now it's not all about that. It's back to business as usual for these drivers and really to kick off their season. So we'll see what happens here. And we'll see maybe if Dollarton can hang on this first lap and get a lap led. But I'm not going to give him a good chance, but I also was wrong last week whenever I said he wouldn't hang on for 2 laps, and yet he won the 500. So he may make a fool out of me twice in 2 weeks.
Dollarton comes into this race, subsequently the points leader after his victory last week at Daytona. We've never had a driver go back-to-back in the first 2 races of the season in terms of taking checkered flags here in the Duracell Cup Series. Could he go coast-to-coast, pole to win here today at Manasas? We'll wait and find out. Green flags in the air, and we are racing in Virginia.
About to say he's trying to do some shade of Matt Kenseth. I was looking at the 4th place starter Jessica Sheldon's car, the DeWalt scheme. He's trying to do what Matt Kenseth did in 2009, win the first 2 races of the season, like he did at Daytona and California. And I'm not sure where the preferred line's going to be in this race. I guess you could say the bottom is, but I think there's going to be so many big runs and stuff. It's almost going to be similar to a plate race. It's going to be hard to really defend all of them.
Top 2, former Duracell Cup Series champions. Chris Dollarton, the inaugural champ from Season 1. Caleb Fogler, one half of the defending champs from Season 5. And he's going to take the lead here on the inside of 4.
I thought Dollarton may have had a chance here to keep first lap to lead it, but I don't even think he's going to be able to stay in the top 5 on the first lap, as Rick Johnson, I think, actually is going to edge out and lead the first lap. Somebody that didn't make, and he didn't make it out of the first basically 5 laps, I don't think, last week, and really didn't get to do his first race. And now he's leading here at Manasas in his 2nd race. Really needing to have a bounce back race to get back up in the points.
That's a great point there. Yeah, ended up, I think he didn't even make it to lap 10 last week. Subsequently 40th in the standings coming into tonight. And of course, the fact that a teammate in Chris Dollarton there at Michael Norman Motorsports won the race last week, that's got to give a confidence boost to the entire team, right? Not just to the 43 team, but the 22, the 93, the 33 teams. They've got to feel that momentum, right?
Oh, absolutely. It brings the morale up on the team back at the shop for sure. And when you have a car can bring you back home with all that confetti and the winner sticker and all that and the trophy, it is a morale booster for sure for the other teams. And it also gives them motivation to really step up to be like, well, if that team can win, I think we have the same equipment. We should be able to do the same. So we got a battle for the lead here. The 87 is now going to slip by the 93. Looks like we're going into 3 here.
Ryan Brommer making his first season in a Toyota over with Auto Junction Racing. We're having some issues with our ticker not showing up. Our telemetry is working, but the ticker's not showing up for some reason. So if we get a chance here, if we end up having a caution or something, we'll try and get that fixed. But you can see at least the cars up here in this one shot that are inside of the top 10 as Deaver's going to take the top position in the 08.
Rick Johnson tried to get back in line. They actually forced it 4 wide almost for a moment. I thought we were going to have some trouble there early. This is the last thing the drivers want to see is a big wreck, especially at the front. As we got Daniel Voilt here, who had a good showing last week, finishing 4th. Kind of had a couple of incidents last week and was able to recover and actually got a break with a yellow to get back in the front pack and ended up getting a top 5 out of it. It's good to see him up here having a good run. You see Joshua Osborne, him and Anthony McCurry, a couple of drivers had a couple of hard licks last week at Daytona up here at the front as well. Definitely looking to bounce back.
Obviously, this is the first season that we've run with the next gen car here in the Duracell Cup Series, so everybody filling out their notebooks. We're going to have a couple more 2-mile racetracks on the schedule, but the other two are really put in very interesting spots. Auto Club going to be the regular season finale, a last-minute opportunity maybe for a driver to make their way into the postseason. And of course, already mentioned Michigan, going to be the season finale with the championship hanging in the balance. So if you're going to take notes in preparation for those two races, you got to think a lot of teams had this particular racetrack circled on their calendars.
Yeah, it hurts also being early in the season, but these drivers definitely are going to look at this as a track that's very similar to where the championship will be determined, and like you said, to get into the playoffs, being the season finale, and having the same or at least similar characteristics. They are going to definitely look at this race in a few a few months. They'll be looking back thinking, what did we do here that really helped with the car, made us good, and put us in an opportunity to win the race, and what could help us to maybe run better at those other tracks if we need to win a race and or battle for the championship to try to win it. So this is definitely an important race. Even though it's only race 2, it's definitely probably circled on everybody's calendar. This is a race everybody wants to run good at.
Reggie Fogelman's Chevrolet to the inside of Ryan Butcher's Toyota Camry. Looks like he'll take that spot. We had 5 Fords finish inside the top 9 last week. You got that 16 of Ali Liera now moving to the inside for second place. She was really the only Chevrolet up there in the vicinity of the top 5, 6, 7 at Daytona. Talk about the fact that Ford had a stranglehold on last week's Daytona race, and Chevrolet maybe trying to step up here today. The numbers game between the bow ties and the blue ovals is pretty even through the field, so I feel like this is going to be an ongoing war. We know there's only one Mazda with Nick Gunther. I think there's only 3? I think it's 3 Toyota. No, 4 Toyotas.
I think there's 5. I think there's 5, wasn't there?
Yeah, you're right. There are 5. 2 out of Haas Racing and 3 out of Auto Junction Racing. So obviously the numbers game is definitely there for the Chevrolets and the Fords, and you know, there's some pride in terms of the dominance of the manufacturers during the course of the season as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they definitely are going to be trying to make a statement early and really kind of be the alpha male manufacturer for sure early on in the season. And right now, Ford's got the upper edge right now. There are actually quite a few of them up here at the front at the moment. So we got a battle here between Keith Batson and the 63 here of Samuel Ryder.
It's teammates too.
Yeah, both. I've seen Keith up here a couple of times. He's actually shuffled out and came back up, so he looks like he has a fast car to get back toward the front. But yeah, I mean, these guys definitely want to try to go up here and just make a statement, especially for their manufacturer. And the Chevys, I think they have a lot they need to prove today because they were not showing up very well last week. And I mean, it could be the same said for the Toyotas and the Mazda as well, because they know they don't want to be falling behind on Ford. Even though Ford's looked pretty good to start the season already. I mean, we've already seen them run pretty well today. Had a few of them already up here battling for the lead and kind of controlling the race quite a bit.
Samuel Ryder is going to be only the second driver to lead more than 1 lap. Ryan Butcher was the other one. Everybody else has taken a turn at the front, has only led 1 lap. There's Benjamin Miles. He struggled last week at Daytona, DNF'd in the 36th position. Subsequently, that's where he is in points. New colors on that number 25. We're so used to seeing the yellow and gold Hertz sponsorship on his Chevrolet, but Marriott coming over as a primary sponsor this season. So that's the thing too. A lot of drivers running their secondary schemes here today. You know, obviously as the season goes on, eyes will get adjusted to seeing them in those particular liveries, but you know, you kind of look at some of these cars and it's hard to associate them with the driver just based on the fact that we saw the particular primary paint schemes last week at Daytona so many times.
Yeah, it's true. It'll just take a little bit of time for us to get used to it for sure. Like, so you see some of these cars and then you'll get used to them for a while and then a new sponsor pops up and you're like, oh, I'm not used to seeing that color. And one that we do know we saw a lot last week, still here this week, is R.G. Bishop there in the 98. A lot of eyes were on him last week. He was kind of around a lot of incidents, and he was around all the action last week. Maybe unintentionally and maybe intentionally, I'm not sure, but definitely was. I called him the Brad Keselowski last week at Daytona because he seemed like he was around all the action and even on pit road. So hoping maybe to kind of clean up his act this week to kind of get some respect back, as we got some drivers really down there. I think that was James Qualls. He drove right under the 83.
William Howard, last week's runner-up from Daytona.
The bridesmaid in that photo
series,
finish
rookie.
as well. Yeah, and he was the bridesmaid, unfortunately, last week, too. He lost out to Chris Dollerton in the photo finish. So he got his first taste of what it was like to almost get a win early on in his career, and you know he's going to be hungry for more today. As Qualls went up there, I think he side drafted Jessica Sheldon there off that corner. That was a little sketchy.
We've had our camera focused up towards the front, but all this has been going on here.
Oh my
Three
goodness,
wide. Oh, they're
wide.
4 wide. That's
Rick
Jose.
Johnson.
That's Jose Mills in the 38. Johnson the 93. Now here comes Dollarton. That's R.J. Bishop, who is
They're
the
all
second car in
Fords.
that 4 wide. You're right. There were 5 Fords all in that vicinity.
I've seen Rick Johnson make that move a couple of times now in this race. He seems like he's not, you know, he's daring. He's not willing to back down from these opportunities to make a pass. But I feel like as the run goes on, I don't know if these tires are going to be able to do that. And these guys keeping their speed for the most part as well. Yeah, it's getting a little dicey up here at the front.
Well, we saw Dollarton start on the pole. He dropped back outside of the top 20. Now he's charging back up to the front. And what a move there by him and his teammate Rick Johnson to go to the inside of Noah Hendrickson into turn 1. I mean, that's 3 wide racing. Like I said, we've been focused at the front, but they've been 3 wide racing all the way back through this field. Been a lot of side drafting, a lot of pinching. They've been able to keep it clean though. So now we don't necessarily know what the fuel window is, but something says to me if they continue to keep the fenders on these cars, pit road could play a huge factor into just how big a field we're going to have once everything is said and done.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'm sure these teams are already communicating to their drivers and trying to strategize when's a good time to go. Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Has this series been to this track before? I don't know if
It has. Yeah, this is actually, Manasas has actually been on the schedule since season 1.
I got you. It may be a little bit different too with the fuel because of a new car. So I guess we can't really look back at previous races here and what the fuel window was there. We got the other half of the defending champions, Kyle Matthews, up front here battling with Austin LaPlante, and there is the 77 right there of Laura Chung, who had a good showing last week as well. I'm telling you, that car. I think that car is going to be up here quite a bit this season. I have that feeling with the 77 car, and it could really stand out too. Like we talked about, not many Toyotas. Could be the flagship car for that manufacturer, honestly, this season.
Now the 77s won several times in previous seasons with rookies. Casey Nanico, Patrick Smith. Of course, last year, 2 wins with Berto Crown Jr. And you saw the 24 take the race lead, Reggie Fogelman. Now, Fogelman's already won. He won as a rookie last year, driving a Dodge for 4 Racing Enterprises. He's still a rookie this season, but that 24 car has actually been very well known for rookies going to victory lane. Alexander Rowe had a win at Pikes Peak. I think that was back in season 3. Following season 4, Nathan Hudson went to victory lane the 24. I believe that was at Michigan, if I recall correctly. So you got a couple of cars there, the 77 and 24, where rookies have had success.
Yeah, that's true. I guess getting those cars that have the previous history with winning, just get the right driver in there and keep that history going, and that's what they definitely have done. See a driver up here in 3rd place battling there in the 47, Jesse Turner. Talk about somebody that was glad to get out of Daytona. I think
yeah.
They originally qualified, I believe, last, and then had a good chance to win the dual race they were in, and ended up, I think, falling back to about mid-pack, and ended up being in the first wreck, and ended up finishing last after all that. So you definitely know Jesse is ready to move on, glad to be coming to another track, and actually got a lap lead right there. So, and I see our one and only Mazda running up through the middle there as well, Nick Gunther, sporting the Square D colors this week. I think he's actually run a different color than he did last week. I think it was Square D last week too, maybe?
No, last week was Schneider Electric.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Different color, though. You're right.
Yeah.
Black and yellow this week. It was black and green last week. Reese
another
Banks,
car.
the 44. That's another driver, much like Jesse Turner. As a matter of fact, 2 of the 3 teams out of Lake Effect Autosport finished in 41st and 42nd last week. You mentioned about Turner, and Reese Banks finished only 1 position better. So,
Yeah,
that,
they were.
that team, they're trying to make sure they don't have their wheels spinning here.
Yeah, that's true. And I see a little bit of Spider-Man coming up through the field here in the 31. Dylan Poteet coming over here challenging leaving Cole Deaver with some help from the 65er Rob Evans. A couple of drivers that I think ran pretty. They were one. We talked about Aliera was one of the only ones in the Chevy camp ran well. These two were all up there for quite a bit. They ended up getting wrecked toward the end of the race. So
yeah, Mills and Poteet both looked like they were definitely cars to beat. Got caught up in a late wreck.
Got caught up in the calamity that was known as R.J. Bishop. That was one of the last deals with that one for the day.
Rob Evans
That's
got
Jessica
himself
Shelton,
a lap lead there, and now Shelton going to take a turn.
she's kind of been up at the front 2 or 3 times already in that O2 car. Seems like she's got a car that's able to get to the front when she wants. It's just a matter of being able to defend it and be there at the right time. Because it seems like we're going to definitely have a bunch of lead changes like we've already seen.
And that's the
And
thing, too. Like, I'm looking at the telemetry, and everybody has led 1 lap with the exception of Sam Ryder, who's led 5, Ryan Butcher, who's led 2. Obviously, things I feel are going to get spread out if we end up having a round of green flag pit stops, but I'm almost thinking you don't want to be the leader on the last lap because the top position has been so difficult to hang on to.
yeah, the drivers are getting such big runs and stuff with the draft. It's hard to really be able to block those runs, and they come from so many different directions because drivers get the run off the corner on the outside, but obviously you're going to be trying to defend the inside. But then somebody may dive inside or outside of somebody and be 3 or 4 wide. It's just really hard to be able to block the main lanes without causing an accident. So, and I know it's early in this race. These drivers are just trying to still fill it out. I think they've probably gotten to the point now they kind of know what they got, and it's time just to race. But it's all going to come down, I think, to just trying to be up there at the right place, the right time, like you said. And leading may not necessarily be the move to be on the last lap. You may want to be 2nd or 3rd.
I'm almost wondering, we saw so many wrecks, especially early on. We had that somewhat long green flag run in the second half of the 500, but a lot of torn up race cars before we even got to halfway. We've seen aggressive racing here, 3 wide, 4 wide, not a lot of room being given, but at the same time, we've now gone a quarter of the way through this race. We've not seen a yellow flag. All 42 cars are still up in this lead pack. There's less than 2.5 seconds separating first from last. So does this kind of say that everybody looked back at all the torn up race cars from last week and said, okay, we got to do something here. We can't be as aggressive here this week as we were last week. We've got to get some notes. We've got to get some reps here in these next-gen cars. Let's at least kind of ride, not necessarily ride around, but let's kind of rein it back a little bit here in the early going.
Yeah, and they probably don't want to tear up another car because it's early in the season. You don't want to get behind on cars as well because that's a big deficit for you to get out of as well, trying to get these cars caught up and keep them prepared for each week. And I think these drivers definitely would just like to have a clean race to bring the car back in one piece. It's nice to see the hard racing they're having, but I'm not seeing the aggressiveness that we saw as much as we did last week. Now, not to say 3 or 4 wide is not aggressive, but we're just not seeing the same kind of moves that we saw last week at Daytona. And again, I think there was a lot more at stake last week just because of the prestige of the Daytona 500. Everybody wanted to win that. Not going to try to just discredit this track or anything, but I mean, it's like any of the sports. The biggest event, you want to win that biggest event for sure.
Look at this side by side. Kyle Matthews, Caleb Fogler. We saw
They
them
just can't get
side
away
by
from
side
each
last
other.
week at Daytona as well. It's kind of ironic. The two that worked together last year to get the championship along with Stephen Paul with the third, battling it out there for the race lead. Another thing I think that might also play into the fact that we've not seen these drivers torn up at this point in time is the space. I mean, Daytona, it's a super speedway. They can race 3 wide, but it's a much narrower 3 wide, especially through the tri-oval. It's a lot easier to go 3 wide at Talladega, especially in the corners there, a lot more room. And you can even see it here in the turns and on the straightaway, a lot more space to be able to work with.
Yeah, definitely for sure. It seems like they're able to make more moves in the situation. When you have more room like that, it gives the drivers more space to do what they want and maybe in a better, more safer way, and not having to take as much risky moves when your guys are really close together on the banks of like Daytona for sure. So we see Chris Dollarton just seems to keep finding his way back to the front, and he's back up once again. And Rick Johnson also is back up at the front. A couple of drivers and teammates that have been kind of from the front to the back about 2 or 3 different times, and now nose to tail working together. And maybe we can see if they can pull away here a little bit. And they also pulled along the 89 of Quentin Moore, who was one of the unfortunate drivers last week that got involved in a wreck in a deal that they did not appreciate at all. I think they were actually the one that got wrecked on, was it pit road, I believe,
Yes,
with RJ Bishop?
Yeah, ran in the back of RJ on, what was it, the final pit stop, I think.
I believe so, yeah. And they were up in the front pack, had one of the few cars that were, I think, left that didn't have any damage, and RJ pulled out of his stall and pulled out right in front of him and busted the radiator out of the 89 car. So definitely looking to kind of bounce back. Speaking of RJ, he is going for the lead.
Interesting you brought up the fact of the 43 and the 93 working together to get up into the front. I'm starting to see drivers finding their teammates. The 77 and the 87, they work their way to the front together. You see there on the inside the Chevys of Sanford and Jessica Shelton out of S3 Motorsports. So it's almost looking like right now drivers kind of testing the waters on just what they can do in a 2-car tandem with teammates and how quickly they can get up there to the front. Here comes Sanford with a big run on that inside. He'll have the lead, I think, at least going into turn 1.
Jessica Shelton stayed committed to her teammate there, but had the 12 car jump underneath her, and she couldn't really block that, as Destin Boland is now actually going to try to take that spot. And it looks like Jessica's going to be in the sucker hole, we call it. As this first time I see Charles up here at the front in the Reese's colors this week for the 03. Nice looking car.
And of course, there's still that big question. How far can these drivers go in a tank of fuel? When do we see potentially our first round of green flag pit stops? Because if they pit before completion of lap 40, then there's no doubt they're going to have to pit one more time before the end of the race. But if they pit around lap 40, even then I think it'll be questionable on whether they can make it the rest of the way. Because if the field gets spread out, you're not going to get nearly as much draft as you did in the early going. And so the fuel window might actually shrink a couple of laps.
Yeah, that is true. I wasn't quite sure how far they can go. I almost did 30 in my head, but I'm thinking they should be able to go further than that. But yeah, I think the teams definitely want to get to 40 for sure. That at the very least, that at least give you a good chance to make it to the end. But if you're out front like these guys are right here, you're not really getting any draft. The draft's going to help us a little bit, and you may be able to run to the pack a little bit, maybe let off the gas a little bit more. Some of these guys up front. That's where you can save some fuel as well. And I'm sure some of these guys are trying to do that here. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the fuel window will be opening up quite, or I should say very soon.
Yeah, you get that feeling for sure, as you had Benjamin Snyder out in front for a moment there. His teammate Jesse Turner took the lead. Now here comes Nick Gunther in the 55. This would actually be history if he's able to lead this lap. Gunther did not lead a lap in the 500. Be the first time in a points-paying race that a Mazda has led a lap. Dollerton's trying to deny him, and he will.
Did.
Oh.
Well,
Dollerton doesn't care about history. He cares about them bonus points.
Thank you, Jinx Nick there. The Mazda history will have to wait for another lap, or potentially another race.
Ooh, that was
oh
close.
My goodness, Kyle Matthews snuck under Austin Blaine. I don't think he even knew he was underneath him there. Man, what a run he got off that corner.
The issue, and I think they were 4 wide for a brief moment. That's why I dropped back there to the 0-9. Here's another frightening thought. If we end up having green flag pit stops, they're double wide and 3 wide. It's tough enough when they were double wide coming to pit road during that one duel. We saw them stack up, and actually a wreck took place at the tail end of that pitting party. I imagine these guys trying to get off this 24 degrees of banking off turn 4, double wide, maybe 3 wide. I mean, talk about the possibility of no caution at this point in time. Pit road might be the chief cause of our first yellow, if that is indeed the scenario we see.
Yeah, it could get pretty sketchy here for sure, and the drivers want to try to get to the bottom as soon as they can too, because like I said, that pit road window, it could open up quite some time, or it could be soon, and yeah, I wouldn't want to be in the situation of having to try to turn down and get onto pit road, going from about 180 down to about, I'll say 55 in about a matter of 5 seconds maybe. Be kind of rough.
The entire pack, about little more than 2 seconds separation from the front to the back. So we've not had any mechanical problems. Nobody has made any contact, gotten up into the wall. Looks like everybody is still at 100%. That's at least good to see in a long run like this, because especially with the fact that we've never run the next-gen car before, teams with a lot of unknowns, you would think that maybe at this point in time there'd be the wear and tear on equipment and we might see a few failures.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and we're seeing a lot of, I've seen a few players that have really kind of, I think they've shown they are able to get to the front and the back as anytime they want. Dollarton obviously has been one of them. We've seen him come to the front quite a few times. Jessica Shelton did. We saw Rick Johnson do it. We've seen the 78 do it.
Kind of like the Jose Mills of Manasas in a way, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. So we got a battle for the lead between a couple Chevys here. And I'm also seeing that 28, he's kind of, Fogum has also been up there quite a bit, I would say, in this race. He seems like he's been able to keep his car toward the front as well. And I know a lot of those names I mentioned were Fords again, so.
Now, on the flip side, I'm looking at our telemetry, and there's a couple of drivers that we really haven't seen work their way to the front. Anthony McCurry was up there for a cup of coffee. He fell back. Dylan Young, I think, was up as high as, I think it was like 3rd or 4th, and now he's fallen back. Carson Gum, we've not seen him really make a charge up to the front.
Wait, I haven't seen Michael Norman.
Yep, Michael Norman. Another driver, too, that stood out. Matt Haas. We haven't seen the 8 car up here at the front really at all either.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if that's by design or if maybe they don't have the car today. Like I said, this is a whole new track. A plate race you set up one way, that's something, and then now we're really getting into these tracks where it's really going to come down to the setup of the cars and everything, how they feel, because you're not going to be able to depend on just drafting. So we could be seeing some teams maybe slipping a little behind here early on, as we almost had a wreck. We don't want to see that.
Yikes!
Well, I can't say we don't want to see that, but
The drivers don't want to see that. I
yeah,
mean,
the drivers
so
don't.
far so good in keeping the fenders on these things, and
I
that would have
thought
been
we were.
right at the front of the field.
You're speaking about Anthony McCurry. He's right there in the third car on the inside there. He's worked his way up here, battling in the top 5 as Reggie Fogelman now takes the lead again. As soon as I said that Anthony got put to the middle, Daniel Voiles actually going to lead this lap in the 26.
Close to that target lap. Getting close. We're about 3 laps away now. 4 laps away, actually.
Yes, if they can make it to lap 40 or later, sure, I think they're going to be good. They'll just have to pack it up and fuel it and get some tires if they want, if they're not wearing too bad, and try to hang in there. Now, I think the pack's going to spread out a little bit once we pit. Like I said, it's going to take probably a yellow to keep the pack like it is here. But I think when we have the green flag stops, we're going to see the pack really spread out a little bit. And we're going to really see who's going to be the front runners, I think, after the pit stops.
Teammates Joanna Atwood Motorsports, Qualls to the inside of rookie Quentin Moore, and now the Toyota of Ryan Butcher looking to break up that party. Again, if you're just tuning in, the ticker is running, but for some reason it's not showing on the broadcast, so if we get any point in time during this race to be able to fix that, we will do so. I know the ticker is working because the telemetry is working. One cannot work without the other, so apologies on that, but I mean, so far, it's been pretty easy to tell who's up inside of the top 10 because they've really kind of all been in the same camera shot as whoever's taken the race lead, and every driver at this point in time is running, is up to speed, is on the lead lap, and is running no more than 2.5 seconds behind the front of the field.
Yes, I mean, everybody's still got a shot at the win at this point in the race, as we saw Noah Hendrickson there, I think, led his first lap of the race. We hadn't really seen him up there. I also saw Zachary Fitzwater there a lap ago. He hadn't been talked about. He had worked his way up there in the 66. A couple of other drivers we haven't really talked about has moved up. Nathan Orman in the 34. He's actually up there, I think, 5th car on the inside. He had a bad week last week, looking to rebound from that. Jose Mills, we haven't talked a whole lot about today as well. And even the 88 there, we really need to talk about Jack Durnan. I think he got caught up in a couple wrecks. He was one of those drivers that kind of lingered around, but hung in there and got, I think, a top 15 finish last week. I think he got 14th. So car that probably was capable of running 35th got a 14th place finish out of it just for sticking in the race. So that's why I say you don't need to back out of these races. You never know when big wrecks may happen. A lot of points are out there on the table that you can pick up. And it could be more important just for you to make the playoffs later on in the season because you did something like that.
Well, last week we ended up having a number of drivers trying to get a win at their home track. Cody Lamas, Dylan Young, Michael Norman. At least to my knowledge right now, I believe there's only one driver in the field here where this would be considered a home track win for him, and that would be Anthony McCrory, a Virginia resident. He's not a Virginia native. He's like me. He's a transplanted maniac. We're both
Current
born
resident.
Current resident. We're both born in Maine. He's in Virginia. I'm in New York, but
Occupant.
yeah, there you go.
I was actually going to give a shout out there to Carson Gum. He had worked his way up into 5th place, got kicked to the outside, but that was the first sighting of the 19 car being up here at the front. But yeah, Anthony's going back to him. Yeah, he would love to try to win this race. I mean, it's technically a home track race, like you said, as he is currently residing from Virginia. Not
caution!
born and
I just saw the lights on there off of turn 4. We've got a yellow flag.
At lap 41 going on 42. Wow, well, that may change everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they hadn't pitted at this point, they'd have been able to make it on just the one pit stop.
I'm just wondering how big it was. Or if it was just a one-car wreck.
Turns 1 and 2. Oh, Daniel Voiles.
4th in the standings, 4th place finish last week. Josh Osborne may have got a piece of it. I see some damage there on that fender on the left side.
Oh, Kyle Matthews.
Oh, man. Oh, one half of the defending champions didn't have the best week at Daytona. It looks like that's going to derail him a little bit more in the points today. I think that was a race ender for him. And
well, we know where the wreck was over in 1 and 2. The question is, where in the field did it take place?
I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll have to go back and take a look and see. But fortunate deal for at least these 3 drivers. There could be more involved, but we'll have to take a look and see what happened. Oh my goodness. Well, actually, he was right outside the top 10. But he was 12th at the line last time by. Uh-oh, there's 4 wide coming up. There's
Oh,
Levi McIntyre up underneath Jessica Sheldon, who got pushed up into Rob Evans, who got into Daniel Voiles. Oh, Kyle Matthews nowhere to go. And he had it saved. Oh, 44 got a piece of it. Oh, there's Matt Haas got a piece of it. Cole Deaver. I think Dylan Pote might have got a piece on the
yeah.
outside.
Well, I don't know. He and Benjamin Miles might have gotten on the brakes. Looks like they might have gotten around on the outside.
We saw a few more cars than we thought got involved. There may have been a couple more I missed there. It happened kind of fast, so I'm not sure.
Reese Banks definitely
Um,
took a big hit there. I don't know about the damage on Cole Deaver. He might have just gotten spun. We'll try and get another camera angle here. The contact with the 26, and you know, we saw 4 wide a couple of times in this race. This was one of those cases where there really wasn't any room given, and unfortunately too was off the corner where things narrow up a bit.
and these drivers are trying to figure out how, like, the distance between them with the new car and what they can do, and maybe those is one of those misjudgments we saw a lot last week. Oh my gosh, Rick Johnson and Nick Gunther were scraping the wall to get around that wreck on the outside. I don't know how either of those guys made it, but they did.
That's a lot of damage on Matt Haas. I actually didn't even see him on that first camera shot. I'm glad you did, but you could definitely see a lot of front end damage on his Toyota Camry.
That
And
was third and fourth in the standings. Both got involved in that.
And I'm pretty certain Poti got around. As a matter of fact, we're going to take the onboard with him because I think it was super, super close
He
on
and
whether
Benjamin
he got any
Miles.
contact or not.
Yeah, him and Benjamin Miles may have been saying their prayers. Honestly, you can take the 55 back to the 25, and they may have all gotten blessed right there.
There's the onboard with the Spider-Man Chevrolet.
See, Spidey slung his way through this wreck. See the wreck? They almost had it saved, but Voiles got hit again right there. 44. Ooh. Oh, my goodness.
Man.
Yeah, the 44. Reese Banks also got caught up. Unfortunate 2 weeks in a row for him, but yeah, I'd give the Lucky Driver Award to the 55, the 93, the 31, and the 25 for sure. That I don't know how they got through that.
Benjamin Miles saying, thank you very much, Poti, for clearing the way for me to be able to get through that wreck.
Well, I was starting to wonder if we're going to see any action, but like I said, those 4 wide situations, the wrong place, wrong time, and it's just kind of judging the distance between these cars and such. And there may have just been a miscommunication there with the, I think that was Levi that got underneath Jessica and just ran out of space, and kind of a chain reaction wreck, unfortunately. It's going to end some drivers' days today.
So everybody was on pit road. And it looks like our problem with the ticker is not going to be able to be fixed. Now, for some reason, it's saying that there is no time recorded on the ticker, but it's actually showing our... Actually, let me see if I can fix this here real quick. Everybody did come to pit lane. Oh, here we go. Ticker might be fixed now. Let's see if we can get it to show up.
And this break is sponsored by Applebee's.
Looks like it doesn't want to show up. I don't know why.
The ticker's just not wanting to agree with us.
No, it is not. It's showing up fine, but I don't know why it's not showing up on the broadcast. Oh well.
Well, I'd rather it have a problem than the broadcast.
That's true.
Don't always take replacements like that. 78 got damage, you see that?
I don't know where at right front, left front.
It looked like the right side was scraped on the 78 when we went by. I don't know.
Maybe some contact on pit road. We'll see if we can get another angle here when they come through 1 and 2. Everybody did come to pit road. No surprise. They should be able to, since they were able to get past lap 40 under green flag conditions, they should be good to go the rest of the way. 4 drivers, though, will not reach the conclusion of this race, all caught up in that wreck. Kyle Matthews will finish in 39th, Daniel Voiles 40th, Joshua Osborne 41st, and Matt Haas there in 42nd. And you brought up the fact there, Haas and Voiles with the top 5 runs last week at Daytona. You know, drivers look at the early races in the schedule to get the good finishes. The big reason being is you get yourself a top 5 run. If you finished poorly in the race before, you can jump up double digits in the standings because the points are so close together. But on the flip side, you run well one week and then you plummet the next week, you could find yourself double digits falling down the point stands, and that's more than likely going to be the case for the 26 and the 8.
Yeah, and you're looking at those two, like I said, the battle, it starts turning from a battle of trying to get up there and be the top 10, top 5, even the points leader. Then it turns into a battle of I just need to get back to 30th, because that's the important spot definitely for this season. Because if you want to be eligible for the playoffs, win or not, regardless, you have to be in the top 30. So you don't want to put yourself in a hole right off the bat in the beginning of the season. But unfortunately for a couple of these guys, it's going to be a problem. Like I said, Kyle Matthews was 24th coming into this race, and Joshua Osborne actually was 25th right behind him. And Matt Haas, I was trying to see where he was. He was third, and then, oh, you already talked about him. Yeah, and Daniel Boyles. They're not going to fall as far back because he ran good last week, but it's almost going to cancel out the good finish, though, nonetheless. So definitely not what one of the half of the defending champions, Kyle Matthews, was looking for early on this season. Just going to have to pick himself up and along with these others and move on to next week and try to bounce back.
Going to be 35 laps to the checkers. Austin LaPlante gets us back under green. Ryan Butcher, Charles Sanford, Carson Gum, and Destin Boland were the top 5. Batson, Mills, Fogler, McIntyre, and Liera the top 10. And, well, single file restart. I don't think it's going to take them very long to get back to the double wide and 3 wide that we saw for the first 40 laps.
And we mentioned this under our commercial break there. The 78 there has some right side damage. I'm not quite sure where that came from, and he didn't get a good start there because the right side of that 3M Toyota was all scraped up. So I'm not sure if Butcher got into it on the racetrack with somebody or if somebody hit him on pit road. You're going to get to see a view of it here, see the scrapes down the number and the sponsor. I'm not quite sure if he's having an aerodynamic issue now with the damage because he kind of dropped like a rock all at once.
It really did, so might be dealing with an issue there for the remainder of this race. Ryan Butcher, my first thought for Ryan Butcher is more than likely contact on pit road, maybe coming out of his pit stall when somebody else was coming in. Butcher started this race from the 16th position, so he would have been right in the middle of pit road. Might have ended up making contact with a driver that was towards the tail end of the pack and might have had a pit stall further up on the pit lane than he did.
That's true. It's Charles Sanford. Looks like to be one of the very few we've had today to hang on and lead multiple laps in a row. The 03 car has been looking pretty good all of a sudden. He was kind of slow getting up there at the beginning of the race. Didn't talk about it until maybe about 25, almost 30 laps into it. Then all of a sudden, now you see the Reese's car up here quite a bit.
Ooh, you saw 38 there. I don't think he realized Ryan Brommer was to his inside and the back
Yeah,
end
that
of the
was
car
close.
almost stepped out there. I mean, he was practically in a 4-wheel slide through 1 and 2.
Now, do you think these drivers, when they get these runs, I'm sure they don't want to give these runs up, and that's why they're making these moves. But I mean, they're putting themselves out there to get into a bad position. We saw that's what caused the yellow, and this has been a common theme so far this season. These runs these drivers get in these new cars. I mean, are they self-aware of this? I mean, are the spotters, are they gonna have to call stuff differently? I know they have even rear view cameras in the car. I mean, I guess it's such a whole new ball game now. I mean, the drivers almost have to. It's like a self-driving deal. Like you have to really caution and I'm trying to think of the word self-discipline with each other. It's like boys have at it, right?
Well, I mean, when you think about the fact that this track, we've already documented, it's very similar to Michigan. Michigan and Auto Club, those are 2 tracks where it's really all about momentum, keeping that optimal speed, because if you lift, if you end up checking up just a little bit, that momentum is gone, and there's going to be drivers that are there to capitalize. So,
Right.
you know, especially at this point in time now, I think they've had 40 laps under their belt to figure out just how to be able to manage the runs. Now they're going to put to work what they learned. And I think at this point in time now, you have that momentum, and somebody chops your nose off, you're probably not going to lift, because you really can't. If you do, you're going to the back.
And that was a good prime example there we saw with RJ Bishop. He wasn't able to hang on to the lead, though. But he saw the run Noah Erickson had on the front stretch last time by. He actually ducked down a line and he ended up going from 3rd to 1st before they even got to turn 1. So, I mean, these drivers are probably have already tried practicing some of these runs they get and see what kind of moves they can make. If they're in the right position here at the end of the race, it could be the difference between them finishing maybe 5th to 1st.
Look at all the yellow stripes we got up here at the front. Chung,
A lot of
Boland,
rookies.
Hendrickson, Ryder, Snyder. I mean, how cool would it be for one of these drivers with the limited starts from previous seasons or their second career start here today to maybe clinch themselves a spot in the playoffs? We've seen rookies make the playoffs before, and more often than not, they've been contenders. I think we ended up having a couple of rookies make it into the round of 8 a few seasons ago.
Yeah, that would be definitely huge, especially early in the season to get a win. I mean, then you really just have to focus on point racing the rest of the way to just make the playoffs. And it would be huge for one of these drivers to get this win today. And I'm seeing a Pizza Hut sighting for the first time tonight, or I should say today, with Michael Norman. Him and his teammate Mitchell Collins. They weren't the best of friends last week. They're running close again. I guess there's no love lost
they didn't give a whole heck of a
still.
lot of room there either.
I don't think Nick Gunther was going to allow that anyway, but there's no love lost between the teammates. I don't know if they've made up from their team meeting or not, but they've kind of been trying to work their way up. We saw their teammates kind of toward the front already. The 33 and the 22 haven't been up there quite as long as Nick Gunther's ducks under Ali Liera and Benjamin Snyder trying to get up there and maybe lead the first lap for Mazda in history. He's going to try to hang on for a lap here, though.
Yeah, oh, 4 wide back here. We'll keep an eye on this.
Oh, McCrory.
Oh, he's got a lane. I think Cody might have let him in. Whew.
Yeah, I think Cody was a smart play there to let him in there. We already saw that's what caused the last wreck, about the exact same spot. I think they hopefully learned their lesson from that. And so far right now, Nick is hanging on this lap. He's got a little bit of a gap. We may see the history made this time by.
I think he's good. They're 3 wide per second. Unless Quentin
89's
gets
coming.
a heck of a run here.
Uh-oh. He may try to block it, but be the first driver.
He's going to have him to his left rear, but
there it
Gunther's
is.
going to lead the first lap ever in a Mazda here in Duracell Cup Series. But you brought up the fact there of Norman and Collins last week. Daytona's not a place that you necessarily think rivalries will begin, but there's a couple of drivers that, based on what we saw last week, they probably came here into Manasas not talking to each other. We saw Rob Evans. He ended up getting to the back of... was that Ryan Butcher, I believe, last week after a wreck in the trial?
Yeah.
There's a couple of drivers that we saw exchanging some extracurricular
Quentin Moore and
contact.
RJ Bishop.
Yeah, so,
on pit road, they're not happy with each other.
Yeah,
I mean, RJ Bishop may have made some other enemies last week
some
with
names
some
off the Christmas card list.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're not really probably going to be on speaking terms for at least a little bit. And they're not probably going to give anybody extra room that may have caused that. Oh, Anthony McCurry there having to cut off James Qualls But yeah, I mean, there's no love lost for sure, even going into a week later. Some drivers, like I said, they're like elephants. They don't forget. When somebody doesn't race you right and you get treated wrong, you're not going to forget it. And you're definitely going to make it harder on them to pass for sure.
Going to be 25 laps to go when they come around here to the stripe. And I guess I'll get it out of the way now because it's going to be even tougher to read it off here when we get close to the end of this race. As looking
we are 4 wide again. 4 still. Cody Lamas is in a not so fun place right now.
That's the second time Cody's had to bail out for it not to be a hairy situation.
Hendrickson. I'm not sure where I keep getting Erickson. That's 2 weeks in a row I've done that.
Marcus Erickson, maybe thinking.
I have no idea. Hendrickson found a spot, got down out of the way, and kind of broke that up, which probably to Cody's pleasure did not want that to happen. As James Qualls back to leave it. I'll let you ask your question. I think we got cut off there.
All right, so yeah, laps led so far today. Most laps led today has been Charles Sanford. He's led 9 in total. 6 laps led for Samuel Ryder. 3 laps led for several drivers. They include Caleb Fogler, Benjamin Snyder, Laura Chung, Chris Dollerton. 2 laps led apiece for RJ Bishop, Noah Hendrickson, Jesse Turner, Anthony McCrory, also Ryan Butcher and Kyle Matthews, and then leading 1 lap apiece so far, James Qualls, Ali Liera, Rob Evans, Nick Gunther, Ryan Brommer, as well as Mitchell Collins, William Hoer, Benjamin Miles, Rick Johnson, and Jessica Shelton. Joshua Osborne also led a lap, but he's back in the garage area. I almost feel like I should have done it the other way around and named the drivers that didn't lead a lap. It would have been a shorter list.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounded like we got a bunch of lead changes in this race. I was watching while you were reading that list off. I saw Noah Erickson and Dylan Young. They got super loose off the corner there right before they got around RJ. So these cars may be a handful right now for some of these guys. And maybe they like driving them loose, but definitely watch that 80 car get sideways. So maybe these guys made adjustments for these cars to help them for the end of this race. And yeah, it's more of a battle, like I said, well, who hasn't led a lap yet, but we still have, I think there's some players we still haven't seen really make their move yet. It's still, like I said, we still got a little over 20 laps to go. There's still a little bit of time, and one of them we really can say we haven't talked about a lot is actually going for the lead here, Levi McIntyre. We haven't really talked about him other than the accident. He really hasn't been up there at all in this race, so maybe trying to make his name and presence known for this end of the run.
Shadow Cult Racing, a single car entry there, and
not gonna be able to hold
last
off.
week at Daytona, brought it home in 7th.
He and RJ Bishop were like 2 peas in a pod. You couldn't separate them last week.
Yeah, you couldn't see one without the other.
They tied for the pole, but the tiebreaker was given to RJ Bishop after we talked about the owner's points being the tiebreaker, which was 2 points from last season, which can you believe it came down to that? But but they stuck together the entire racing like and ended up finishing together. It looks like RJ was 6th, Levi was 7th, and we look to see the 87 here, Ryan Brommer, back to the lead. And yeah, they just couldn't stay away from each other last week.
Well, Ryan Brommer could end up doing something that no driver has ever done before, and that would be make the playoffs in 3 different manufacturers. He was a playoff driver for at least 2 seasons, I remember, when he drove a Dodge for Bulldog Motorsports. He was in the playoffs last season in cooperation with Dylan Poteet and James Shelley over at Pigeon Racing, and now if he were able to pick up a victory either here today or later on here in this regular season, he would potentially make the playoffs in a Toyota Camry. No driver has ever made it to the playoffs in 3 different manufacturers in their career.
Well, that would be a feat for sure to be able to pull that off. He's definitely had the speed today. He's been up there quite a few times, and it just kind of seems like it's all about timing for these guys and girls for sure to see when they can get up there. Like I said, we see him. Brommer's already about 4 or 5 rows back, but it's just a matter of timing when you get back to the front. It's just going to kind of come down to that, I think. He seems like he's been one of the better drivers that kind of been able to do that, and seems like he has a car capable of making moves to the front. Carson Gum, I think, just led his first lap of the day.
He did. Check another driver off the list of that haven't led yet today.
Mitchell Collins, like, all right, you led your lap, now get out of my way.
See some of the others up here at the front that haven't led a lap so far. Destin Bolin in the 12, Jack Dunnard in the 88. And then you got Fitzwater and Norman just outside of the top 10. They haven't led a lap yet here today.
Looks like Fitzwater's moved up a few spots since the last lap. He's actually up to 3rd, battling now for 2nd with Jesse Turner. As Ryder goes back to the front, another driver has led one of the more few laps, I should say, in this race. Samuel has been pretty fast. Anthony McCurry seems like he's found his car all of a sudden late in the race because he was up here not too long ago. He's already back up here once again. And Quentin Moore seems to have been on a redemption tour today with that 89 car. He's been really fast. I mean, all of the team cars there with Qualls, Osborne ran good earlier, and now Moore, they've all got really good Camaros this week.
You know, you brought up the fact of the difference maker of just a couple of points as to who won the Daytona 500 poll last week. You consider the fact here that with so many different drivers being out in front, that 1 bonus point for leading the most laps could be important, as we got some slow cars there. That's Shelton and Deaver.
I don't remember them being in the accident.
Well, Deaver was in the accident. He spun out, but I don't remember Shelton being in the wreck.
Oh, wow. We must have missed that.
I almost wonder, do you think maybe that contact on the right side of the 78, it might have been Shelton who got together with him?
There's a good possibility. We may have to look back at that. You may see it in a side-by-side at some point. We may have to go back and take a look at that. But, yeah, definitely something's wrong with the O2. And we had talked about it. Shelton was one of the strongest cars, I thought, early on in the race. She seemed to be up there quite a bit. And this is definitely not what she was needing. She came here 31st in the points, so that's also not going to help her at all. And I think Deaver also had a bad race. He was 37th coming into this race after a bad race. So they both were looking for rebounded races, and looks like they're going to have bad luck once again.
Well, it's at this point in time not looking like we'd end up having a caution, but I say that, and we end up having a caution just on the eve of potential green flag pit stops. And there's about a half dozen drivers that want to see that yellow flag, because I just looked at my telemetry, and we've got a group of about 5 that are running 13.5 seconds behind this lead group. They include Dylan Poteet, Chris Dollerton, Benjamin Miles, Reese Banks, and Rick Johnson, and we know that none of them were caught up in the wreck. I almost wonder if maybe, well, that 78 of Ryan Butcher was off the pace. Could they have gotten held up behind him? Were they maybe behind Deaver and Shelton on the restart, and it just like completely killed their momentum in keeping in touch with the front of the field?
Well, if we're able to check, is there any cars up ahead that maybe have separated? Here they are right here. Are they running? I didn't see the lap times they were running, but that's interesting.
Well, they're running around the 38.3, 38.5s. Leaders are running 37.5s or so, 38.2 I'm seeing for the slowest lap of drivers in this pack.
Not quite sure.
Oh, they need a caution then, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're about to get one back there. 4 wide, the 87 and the 63. I thought we were gonna make contact. They're still 4 wide.
Oh gosh.
You may get your wish here as you said that. Oh my goodness.
And it's not going to go away anytime soon unless Brummer can get in front of LaPlante.
I think LaPlante just let off a little bit, and that's one of those things you don't want to do that either because you lose the momentum. Now look at LaPlante, how far back he just fell back from the 87.
3 wide, what is that, 6, 7 rows deep? So yeah, this may not be over. The possibility of a race, of a caution coming out, and we're getting close to the end of this race too. Nearing 10 laps to go, so
Ooh,
gonna be a lot more take than give.
I saw Cody Lamas. I don't know if he got tight off the corner or what. He almost went up there and walled Nick Gunther. I'm not sure what happened there. The handling may be going away on some of these cars, but you're having to hang on. You don't want to lose the pack, as we saw with those 5 or 6 back there. It's getting down to the end of this race as Dylan Young's now battling for the lead. I believe this would be his first lap lead of the day.
And you would be correct, and it is.
They got I see 3 Toyotas right behind them. They're all trying to make their presence known. 87, 78.
I know these
80.
stock cars are a lot heavier than open wheel race cars, but I know when I've talked to a lot of drivers, when they get ready to go out to tracks like Auto Club in Michigan, they talk about the longer you go into a run, the emptier that fuel cell gets, the lighter the back end of the car gets. And you were talking about a lot of drivers seem to have handling issues and getting loose. I'm almost wondering if that plays a little bit into it.
Yeah, and having somebody on your back bumper like the 87 is on the 2 doesn't help either. I mean, he was packed up underneath that while on number 2. Yeah, I mean, I think that does play a factor in it for sure, as Brahmer was trying to block his, I think that's his teammate. I'm trying to figure out that. I think the 77 Laura Chung, but yeah, I mean, it definitely changes the handling, the characteristics of the race car, and you have less fuel in there that makes it lighter. Definitely going to make the back end be a lot looser, but some drivers may prefer that. I mean, some may just want to have a super loose car. I mean, that's just their style, and they may not like the car being tight.
Charles Sanford has led the most laps today. Only driver that's led double-digit laps. He's led 10 so far, might lead 11. Trying to see if he can pick up his first victory of the season. It's been a long winless spell for Charles Sanford. I believe last time he went to victory lane, I want to say it was back in season 3, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it may have been a little bit. I'm not the one with all the knowledge for that, but I can agree with you.
I know he didn't win in season 5, and I'm pretty certain he didn't win in season 4, so. Cody Lamas not going to lead this lap. He's still looking for a lap lead today. Jose Mills, he's also looking for his first lap lead. Fitzwater looking to deny him in the 66.
Yeah, I think if that was the first lap, Fitzwater may have led as well.
So you had Lamas, Mills,
Knocking
and
him out.
Fitzwater in 3 and 4 all trying to get to the line first to get their first lap lead of the day.
And we're under 10 laps to go, so it's go time now for these drivers. They've seen a lot of these drivers we haven't really talked about trying to make moves. Benjamin Snyder, seen that 74 is kind of come and gone up to the front a few times here in the second half of the race. Seems like they've got that car going where he wants.
Woo!
You know, Zachary Fitzwater did not want to let him go, and he was unfortunate to not be able to keep the lead there.
Keith Batson tried to throw a block on RJ Bishop. RJ was having none of that.
RJ had a heck of a run coming off turn 4, and Snyder had no chance of blocking him there as the 98 now goes back to the front.
Cody crosses down from middle to bottom. He'll take it 3 wide for second place.
Oh, ooh, Austin LaPlante snuck under, I think that was the 47. That was close. Whew.
Take a look here in this shot all the way back, because everyone that's in this lead pack, they still got a chance of winning this race. We've seen drivers very quickly work their way from the back of the pack up to the front, and with about 7.5 laps to go, still plenty of time to do so.
And you have to think, too, if we get a late race caution, if it's within so many laps, the race may end under yellow. So
yeah, got a couple of lap machines, so you can add that extra lap of pacing onto it.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, boy. This was 4 wide for a brief moment.
They settled it out somehow, some way. Yeah, I'm not sure who you can really play as a favorite right here because they keep coming and going so fast. I think it's just going to be a timing thing, just where you're at when it crosses the white flag and where maybe you are off turn 4.
RJ Bishop now out in control. Fitzwater gonna cross over the nose of Nick Gunther's Mazda. Hangs on to second for the moment. Ford looking to pick up back-to-back victories here to start off Season 6 of the Duracell Cup Series. And how about this? The bridesmaid last week doesn't want to be the bridesmaid this week. Here comes the rookie William Hoer.
That Hershey's Mustang is definitely looking pretty stout right now. Got Shane Ryder right behind him in the 63. Oh, I think he was trying to stay in front of the 63 there, but got a little bit of a push from the 12. And when they would hold it there on the bottom. Now, I'm looking at it now. I'm not sure how many laps it takes from these drivers to kind of work their way back up from the back to the front of the pack. But I feel like at this point, you don't really want to be kicked to the outside because it seems like you're going to run out of time to get back up there and make another run unless you can get back down.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult, though, with them 3 wide all the way back through this field to find a way first to the middle line and then down to the inside line. Teammates.
Quentin Moore. Ooh, yep. James Quald and Quentin Moore working well together on the bottom. And we already talked about Joshua Osborne, who was running good earlier before the accident. They all brought good cars for sure today. I think they've all been pretty good. I mean, Quentin Moore was definitely running up there, running good last week. So I think Quentin Moore has shown a lot of people he's here to stay, and he's capable of being a contender. Seems like so far he's 2 for 2, I think. And I think he's making a good remark and everything on everybody's case.
Again, said this last week, do not let the rookie stripes deceive you. Just because they are bearing the rookie stripes in the back bumper does not mean they don't have prior experience in other series. It's just the first time they've ever stepped behind the wheel of a Duracell Cup Series car. Is Chung back to the point. There's Charles Sanford there in
Sanford
second.
found his way back.
I know, he keeps coming to the front. He's kind of been the Jose Mills here at Manasas. We saw Mills constantly work his way up to the front at Daytona last week.
Sanford trying to stay in front of his friend there, Dylan Young.
Well, they checked up on that inside line there, too.
Somebody was on the apron there, it looked like. I don't know, somebody got like halfway down.
Well, it's Brommer, and he's coming to pit road.
Was there an issue on the
Wait
fueling of
a
the 78?
minute.
That's the only car that pitted?
No, we got more. LaPlante and Carson Gump. So, wait, is this a fuel strategy race?
Because these guys been saving back here?
No way.
Well, this is going to get interesting.
Let's see what happens off turn 4 this time. Are there any hands out the window?
It's the radio chatter picking up.
It's a long ways around this racetrack, 2 miles.
Well, if it rains, it pours. We may see more come in this time. We're about to find
dive
out.
On to pit road. We're going to cycle through the field.
Oh, I thought that wasn't anybody. I thought.
Yep, we got one. McCrory, the 61, couldn't make it.
This is an unfortunate deal for a few of these drivers because I'm not sure. That's weird. A lot of those were Chevys. There was one Toyota. Most of them were Chevys. That seemed like they couldn't make it.
Remember,
Maybe they didn't fuel enough.
Gum, LaPlante, they were up towards the front, so I almost wonder if they didn't get those things packed full of fuel, and that's why they gained all the track position on that last restart.
And it's a new car, and the pit crews are also new at this, so that could be another factor. Maybe these pit stops so fast with the tire changes didn't get the fueling they usually get. So I'm not sure.
Looks like everybody here, they kind of made
flag.
their bed. They're going to have to lie in it because they're going to have the white flag this time. You either run out of fuel or maybe be able to sputter that thing across the line. Let's see what happens as Fogler.
What
a move there for 3 wide. Well, it was for second. Now he's going to get the inside of Dunnard for the lead.
He timed that perfectly. I think he kind of surprised Rob Evans and Dunnard both. But now can he hang on? That 33 car Mitchell Collins got a heck of a push from Levi.
Looking maybe for back-to-back wins to open up the season for Michael Norman Motorsports there. Mitchell Collins, I don't know if he's going to have an avenue here off of turn 4, though. Fogler,
the 28 slipped up.
Opened the door. 33 is going to stick his foot in it. And it will be Mitchell Collins winning here today at Manasas as our camera guy messed up at the stop freeze frame at the start-finish line.
I think he had a stroke.
I think he did.
He was 6th place across the line, taking the white flag, and jumped up to 1st. So I think I said about it'd be the difference between making it to 5th to 1st. Maybe that was about the money number to be at.
Mitchell Collins, who ended up finishing 13th last week at Daytona. If I recall correctly, he had a lot of damage and was just kind of puttering around in that race. Only the 2nd lap he led here today, and it's the most important one.
Well, Michael Norman Motorsports is looking pretty good.
They
Two
are.
of their drivers won the first 2 races, and both currently locked into the playoffs with that too. But unfortunate deal there for Fogler. He was trying to win that, and you know, it is what it is. Just like I said, right place, right time. You had to be, and somebody. Oh
gosh, Will Howard and Charles Sanford just wrecked back there. That's ironic. The Hershey's and the Reese's cars.
Here comes everybody. Oh no.
Oh boy, brakes.
Let's save the cars.
Looks like they're okay. Yeah, I think they're fine.
Laura Chung's really looking at that wall.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I think they're safe.
All right, we're good. And there you see those other drivers there just now coming to pit lane. Brommer, Gum, LaPlante, McCrory could not make it on fuel. And so subsequently, they're going to be all finishing back 33rd through 36th.
It's interesting. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but it definitely is going to hurt their day nonetheless.
Standings are official. 82 1,000ths of a second this one, so we've had a couple of photo finishes to start out the season. It's
Yeah,
been Fords
sure.
in both of them.
Yeah, the Fords are actually swept the top 3
They
today.
did.
I mean, Fords. I mean, they're they're trying to make a statement. If they're trying to, they're definitely doing a good job of it so far this season. I mean, it's just been like Fords have dominated so far this season. I mean, they basically won everything. They won the pole again today, and they won the race.
Well,
How about that?
next week's Las Vegas, and the Blue Ovals have done pretty well there, so they may continue their winning ways. When we get to that mile and a half, Jack Dunnard and Cody Lamas, they'll be the top Chevrolets, completing the top 5. Good run there for both of those machines that both struggled last week. Dunnard was, I think, 14th and really wasn't in the conversation late to be able to win that race. And Cody
Cody
Lamas last
crashed.
week, yeah,
Yeah,
he was out of the race and DNF'd. I think he was, what, like 34th, I think, 35th in points
he's
coming to this race. So
34th.
yeah,
Yeah,
so he'll make some big gains in the standings.
you can't make up the
Fitzwater,
sixth.
Evans,
You can't make up that 6th place finish in that car number.
right? Well, actually, how about the teammates there? That's Evans Gardner Motorsports, 6th and 7th with Fitzwater and Evans, and then you got Norman, Sanford, and Fogelman. While we did have 3 Fords at the top, it's a lot of Chevrolets peppering in that top 10 as well.
Yeah, that's all a lack of Toyotas there toward the end of that. I think Noah Hendrickson is going to be the highest finishing one in 11th. And then like I said, we talked about Nick being the only one that's in a Mazda. But yeah, the Chevy seemed like they brought more speed this week. It's just the Ford seemed like they just had a little bit more. They just are a little bit more ahead of the game from the other manufacturers. I think there's still a little bit of catching up to do. And as we look at the rest of the results here, and saw a lot of spacing out toward the end, and we had the small pack, and we also had the guys that pitted, and a couple drivers lapped down, and 4 of them unfortunately didn't even make it to the finish.
Yeah, 28th through 32nd. They lost touch with the lead pack on the last and only restart of the day. 33rd down through 36, as we mentioned, they couldn't make it. The rest of that run on fuel had to come down and top off. So a lot of track position lost in their final finishing results. And then we know Deaver was involved in the wreck. We're still kind of in the dark about what happened to Shelton. You guys would have seen it with the split cam during the race itself, but lap down for well, actually, a tough day, really, if you look at it outside of Charles Sanford, because you've got 3 of the S3 Motorsports cars right there, 37th, 38th, and Kyle Matthews out of the race in 39th.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate deal for them. They were just kind of the wrong place, wrong time, and most of them they ran pretty well. We didn't really see Matt Haas, unfortunately. I'm not sure what was going on with the 8 car today. Just I guess they didn't have the speed, but Osborne, Voiles, and Matthews seemed like they had something today, and unfortunately, like I said, they just were in the wrong place, wrong time, and they got caught up in a kind of another incident that really took them out of the equation. It's going to be back to the drawing boards for them. A lot of them are about to catch up in points as we move on to Las Vegas, but maybe they can try to cash in next week. I mean, it's Las Vegas where hopefully you get bring some luck and maybe walk away with a win.
Also, good green flag racing here today. Only one caution broke it up. As you mentioned, we start to get a little bit smaller in the racetracks. It was 2.5 last week in terms of mileage at Daytona, 2 miles here today at Manasas, and now we chop another half mile when we go to Las Vegas next week. Then it starts to get crazy in terms of the scheduling. Some new tracks in certain positions that have been on the schedule previously, and also some new tracks that have never been on the schedule. We got Pocono, Phoenix, North Wilkesboro, Indianapolis. So normality ends next week at Las Vegas. It'll be interesting to see how drivers prepare themselves for the upcoming remainder of the schedule here for the first half of the regular season. But if you guys enjoyed our coverage of today's race from Manasas, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and become a part of the crew today. Congratulations once again to Mitchell Collins on his victory. Dylan, I appreciate you joining me up in the booth. I'll give you a moment here to plug your channel.
It's not that active these days, but whenever I do,
there, though.
it is still there. It's the Dylan Tay 22 channel. Not really doing a whole lot there recently, but I was playing a randomized Nuzlocke challenge for Pokemon Soul Silver, which I may eventually get back to. Just been busy with work, but that's the current project that I'm working on. Maybe we'll put up some gaming videos at some point, and maybe try to get back into it when I can. I'm hoping I get back active again. It's been a little bit, but yeah, if you want to check it out, just go, and there's some interesting videos. I'm still trying to get better at editing and like I said, just has to have the motivation if I can just get back to it. But yeah, if you want to check out some of my old videos, I used to NR stuff too. There's there as well. And yeah, I appreciate if you stop by and take a look. And for this, thanks for having me again today, Seth. It was fun. Hopefully, we can do it again in the near future. I just know crazy time because Christmas coming up. Availability for everybody obviously goes down. So hopefully, make it back here in the booth for another race in the future and see what happens this season. Just continue on and see what all happens.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week when we head to the West Coast at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Can anyone stop the Fords? Can anyone stop Michael Norman Motorsports? They've won the first 2 races on the season with Dollarton at Daytona and Mitchell Collins here today at Manasas. We'll find out next week, but for Dylan Poteet, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NSRA TV, offline racing at its best.